So here is the Traxxas Revo. I'm swapping out the slipper clutch today for the Robinson Racing setup. They have a metal spur gear in there and a significantly better slipper clutch than the factory stuff that's in there. Basically, I was trying to adjust the stock factory one, and it was slipping, and I was tightening and tightening and tightening, and I actually ended up snapping the input shaft. So I'm going to be swapping that out. So don't be an idiot and break something, making you have to pick up more parts. Just do things right the first time. So I'm swapping out the slipper clutch because on the Revos, especially on the higher powered ones, the factory one just doesn't really work all that well. It works, but once it starts slipping and everything, you start eating up gears, and the clutch little pads start slipping, and guys are swapping out pads and everything else. So kind of a pain in the butt. There is another brand, Hot Racing, that makes a slipper clutch replacement similar to this, but it uses the same pads, but you can also use upgraded pads with that one as well. However, I really like Robinson Racing. I've used their stuff on my Emax for a long time. I used to have a brushless Stampede back in the day. Same thing, had their products on the car. They worked out really well. So let's get the transmissions pulled off, get this part swapped out, and get the spur gear and the slipper clutch installed. So there's the transmission, got that pulled out actually pretty quickly. So now I'm about to swap in the new input gear. Okay, so I got the input shaft swapped out, so hopefully I won't be breaking the threads off anymore, and it's time to open up the Robinson Racing slipper clutch and see what's in here. Okay, and looks like we've got some stickers, and here is the slipper clutch itself. Now it definitely has some weight to it because it is metal and should be definitely putting up with a lot more abuse. And then the clutch pads themselves. Now here's the pad for that, and let me show you. This is what the factory one is, so super tiny in comparison. So this is going to be a huge upgrade here. And just to give you an idea, I mean, here's what we're dealing with the stock one. Same thing, it's not bad, it's just there's not a lot of material on there to help at all. Okay, so it specifies that you need to pull everything off of the input shaft. So remove all the parts except for this small like little pin that goes in the little hole here. Obviously I had everything off because I broke it, so I had to swap that out. After that, put on the new aluminum backing plate, and you'll see it's got the spot for the pin to go right in here. After that, it's this slipper pad, which is, of course, this brake material looking thing. Sits right on there. Then I'm going to go and put the steel slipper on there. It also comes with a new bearing. I'm going to go ahead and leave the bearing in there just to make install a little bit easier. Or not. Fiber washer. So they give you a little bag of washers. So they specify that first I put the fiber washer, which is this. Put fiber washer on there. And then it suggests 4 of these little cone washers. Now, it'll be tough to tell, but these are not completely flat washers. They've got almost like a bowl shape to them. They suggest having it so the curved part is going to be facing outward. So if you were to put, so here's the washer. I know that's tough to tell. It's the curved part right here, and then the nut is going to go on top. So it'd be like if you flipped a bowl upside down, and that's the side the nut is going on. So you're going to put 4 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now they do, at least in this package, I ended up with 5 of them in here. Obviously, I'm not going to put the 5th one on there because it specifies not to. And then the lock nut. Followed up by that with the lock nut. Awesome. Very good. So now I've got that set up. And then the last thing that they do recommend in the instructions here is you need to use a hardened pinion that they offer. If you don't, what's going to happen is your steel spur here is going to eat these things up. I experienced the same exact thing on the Slash that I have. So they do suggest using part numbers 8712 through 8725 for their pinion gears. Now, the 87 I'm assuming is like their hardened stuff, and then the numbers after that denominate what size pinion it is. So if it's an 8720, it's going to be their hardened pinion and a 20-tooth pinion. If it's an 8715, same thing, it's going to be a 15-tooth. In this case, I have a 21. This puts me at gearing that I was pretty close to before. This time I've got a 65 tooth spur gear and a 21 tooth pinion. So should be pretty good setup. So the spur gear and the pinion are now installed, and check the gap on it and everything. Seems pretty good. One thing to keep in mind is the motor and the motor plate that it mounts to can be rotated a little bit. Because when I first put the pinion gear on there, I was thinking that I screwed up, because a lot of people don't like the 65 millimeter, or excuse me, the 65 tooth spur gear, just because they say it's kind of big. Obviously, depending on the pinion that you're running, the gearing is going to stay the same regardless. So I'm running the 65 tooth spur gear and the 21 tooth pinion gear, and eventually I went to pick up 22 tooth pinion gear, just so that way I keep it close to 3-to-1. But otherwise, check your gap on that, and then make sure that the motor and the mounting plate are positioned properly, so then that way when you put the dust cover back on, it fits. Because at first I thought that the mounting screw for the front here I was gonna have to drill out, but then I remembered that I can rotate the motor, so I did that, and then everything snaps together and fits in perfectly. So now I'm looking forward to getting out and driving it. Obviously, because you are running a metal spur and a metal pinion gear now, it's really important to verify the gap, the mesh setting for your spur gear and the pinion. So take your time on doing that and check it. Obviously, you know, driving around for a little bit. You'll have to adjust the slipper clutch as well to make sure that it's not slipping too much or that it's not too tight. But either way, pretty good setup, and I'm really looking forward to driving this around, and it should be pretty bulletproof now.